You ready to go live? Okay, we'll go live. All right, we'll start the meeting this evening. Call the meeting to order. 5 p.m. First item of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The next item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the October 18th, 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 18th, 2022 meeting.
Okay, I have a motion. Second.
Second.
Okay, Luke second. All right.
Green.
Aye.
McLean.
Aye.
Upshaw.
Aye.
Mauer. Aye. Calvin.
Aye. Right, the next item on the agenda this evening is the consideration and vote to recommend approval of the primary site plan for Taylor Forge. Triangle Builders is the applicant.
So this is a request for a preliminary site plan approval for a new 4,732 square foot learning center on Taylor Ford's property. It's an architectural site plan submitted by Triangle Builders that was completed by BCS Design Inc. Architects. This is a preliminary site plan, so no outside review was completed by design professionals. The site area required, according to the LDO, is 5 acres. The total acreage after a recent boundary line adjustment is roughly 12.10 acres. Setbacks required are 25 feet, provided are 70 foot 6 inches on the south side, 177 feet on the east side. That's for the learning center addition. All other setbacks are existing. Parking required 2.5 per 1,000 square foot of floor area, plus 1 per company vehicle. It's noted that no parking plan was submitted on sheet AS 103. It shows an existing number of stalls versus the provided number of stalls after the addition. Applicant has acknowledged that the parking requirements are not being met, but has asked the planning commission to waive the requirement. And then it's also important to note that if the addition, the way it will be situated on the parking lot negatively impacts the flow of traffic through the parking lot, if that should be looked at to kind of be reconfigured in that area. Handicap spots required are 6. It is unknown, since there was no parking plan submitted with this. It appears that there's handicap spaces that will be removed for the addition of the learning center, so those will just need to be replaced in a different area. Parking surfaces are all required to be paved with concrete, paving blocks, asphalt, or other all-weather surface. Gravel is not permitted. All existing parking in that area is hard surface. If the planning commission wishes to require any additional parking to meet those requirements that were in the previous section, it would be required to be the hard surface material as stated previously. Landscaping is 6 plant units per acre. No landscaping plan was submitted, but staff would recommend that landscaping is only required along the southern and eastern exteriors of that new addition. Parking lighting, there was no lighting plan submitted, so it's unknown if there's any existing light poles in the parking lot, and so that would be something to look at for safety since it butts up to a residential neighborhood. So at this point, the planning commission could wish to recommend approval for the preliminary site plan of Taylor Forge. It is my recommendation that the site plan is approved based on the following conditions. Submit a utility information for the site, including but not limited to utility easements, addition of a landscaping plan, addition of lighting plan, and addition of a parking plan to verify adequate ADA parking. Included in the packet are the drawings, there is a map of that area with existing water and utility service, so you can see they run through the site, so just be, in staff opinion, important to include an easement if anything goes wrong there, that the city can get in there and correct any of those issues.
So this not to interrupt you, just.
Yes, that one right there. The green is sewer line, red is water line. Included in the packet also is the application, that Triangle Builders submitted. The plan set, as noted, and then the mapping for city utilities. It is also noted that this application is consistent with section 21.625 of the LDO. The application will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the community. This time I will leave it to planning commission to discuss. And Alan here with Triangle, if you have any questions for him.
Got a question, Alan?
Go.
Parking.
Yes.
What are you gonna do with parking? I drove by there today and the parking lot was full.
No,
Well, it was when I went by.
we, in your packet, you can see that, we've taken aerial shots on 2 different days, and he's probably got 30 days worth of aerial shots. Every day at 4:30 while there was the, it's AS 103, it's got the aerial.
Yep,
Excellent.
sorry.
They took shots at 4:30 when they still had the first shift, the day shift. And office staff still there, and the second shift was already on site. So you can see that there's spaces left in the parking lot. If you drive through the parking lot, you would think that it's full, but when you look at the aerial photo, you can see the spaces, the loose spaces mixed in and around. And we'd be happy to show you more documents, more of those aerial photos. The total spaces in the main parking lot was 137. And the west parking lot over on the west side on Mulberry Street was 41. Gets us to a total of 178. And we were using 100.
It says with the addition, you'll lose 25 spots in the main,
Yes,
and you'll lose, so they will lose 25 spots in the main.
right, but we have more than that. The math works out to where it works. Let me get to the other page. Yeah, if you go to the page, it looks like this.
Number, yeah.
Got 1 or 2, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, that's a little, I just got a small copy, so. We had 137 in the main parking lot before the construction. We had 41 in the west over on Mulberry Street. We were using, I take that back, I'm reading this wrong. We had 178 total parking spaces, and we were using 137. We had 137 in the main parking lot. In the west, we had 41, gets us to 178 parking spaces. And we were actually using, what did he do when he printed this?
Looks like you were using 153, if I'm seeing it. Yeah, on the right side.
Yeah, on the right side.
It's on the back side of that one.
Yeah, there was 153 in the utilization at the shift change. And we had 178. So basically, we have enough parking to meet the load that we have today. The learning center doesn't really add employees. It is more for spreading out some of the existing office staff, and the learning center is for training. For the guys in the shop and the guys in the office to have a place to meet, because what they've got now is very substandard. So that's the purpose of the learning center.
So we believe that when we get done, we will have sufficient parking to meet the load that we have now, plus a little bit more. And we can add more parking over on the west side on Mulberry Street if we need to. There's plenty of space over there for some more parking. And then some of the staff that's now parking in the main parking lot, they're just the work staff, and they can park over on Mulberry Street on the west, over towards the old,
I think it's labeled here as Diamond. So-
Well, that is Diamond Street, so Diamond Street is actually between the main office and the main shop.
Oh, that's
Mulberry-
Mulberry Street. Yeah, maybe on the west side. I see we have the old,
Yeah, Mulberry runs between our warehouse and the main shop.
right. And then it goes back in around behind the old Fluor buildings. When you cross the railroad tracks down by the old circus town.
and into the circus house.
Yeah. So we believe that there will be sufficient parking when we get done. The ADA parking spots, right now we have 2 right directly in front of the building. We have one that is located at the south door, right next to where the addition is going to go. It is east of the south door, so we would just readjust it to fit in that same location, but a little bit further to the east. We'll add another one out in the front parking lot in front of the building, next to the east curb. And it's not that far from the ramp, but it's further. And then we'll add one over on the west on Mulberry Street by the Navy building for the people that are on that side of the building that are just workers, that somebody may have a injury of some sort and be handicapped for a while. I don't want to dismiss that they don't have handicapped people down there, but given the nature of the facility, it's,
People on light duty.
yeah, it'd be people on light duty. And I'm sure they could have some ADA folks in the office too, but there'll be room for all the parking and the ADA. To answer your question number 1, utility information, Richie is going to put, with Alan Brandrews, is going to put a drawing together that demonstrates that. The sewer and the water are shown there. You need to keep in mind that this site was originally developed in 1890, I don't know, pick a date. And it was originally Fluor Daniels, then it became Taylor Forge. And ultimately in the 60s and 70s is when they built the big warehouse. And at that point in time, as you can see, the water and sewer lines that go underneath the warehouse are still, underneath the main plant, I'm sorry, are still there. At a time in the last 15 years, they purchased, or they have been purchasing all of the properties on Kaskaskia Street one by one as they became up for sale. So they own all of the south side of Kaskaskia Street that's vacant, and they own the north side of Kaskaskia Street, which is where the main parking lot is. And they've acquired those fee simple over the last 15 to 20 years, like I said, as they became available. Back in 2010, when they did the main office addition that you see there today, that's when they developed the parking lot. And the parking lot was put in during that addition. In that parking lot, there's lighting in the parking lot that will get identified on that site utility plan. So we'll show the parking lot lighting, the sewer, the water, and we can get those ADA sites also on that plan. Power wise, Taylor Forge has kind of got a unique situation down there that we're trying to alleviate some of. Back in the old days, companies like Taylor Forge bought their power bulk and they put in their own transformers. So all of the transformers inside the site down there belong to Taylor Forge. So what we're trying to do with a couple of locations in this process is get the electrical services and transformers back to Power and Light and off of Taylor Forge as part of their internal infrastructure. That's what we've got the permit for. The vessel shop, the vessel shop's in the northeast corner. We're getting that one off and back on power and lights transformer in the next 60 days. We'll be doing something similar with the office that's there now, the whole office complex. We'll be getting it off of the transformer that feeds the main shop. So we can separate and get some new transformers in the system. But the reason for that discussion is the power stops at the property line basically, and all the power lines that are inside the property belong to Taylor Forge. So they won't be shown on the development plan because it stops at the corner of Diamond and Kaskaskia. The landscape plan, that's always been a hard thing to work with through the LDO. It's obvious this site can't have 6 plant units per acre. I don't know where you put all of them. But you can see if you go down there and drive through the parking lot, that on the east side of the building and on the southeast corner of the main office building, they've developed that with landscaping when we did the improvements 10 years or 12 years ago now. And we'll continue to do the same thing on the south and east sides of the addition. I put a quick sketch together today. If you want to take a look at it.
I think that they're bigly going for the next.
But there'll be basically a 6-foot border around the office building with plantings in it on a reasonable basis. The lighting was done in 2010. There's one pole that's going to be fairly close to the addition, and we'll have to figure out what to do with the heads on that pole, whether we change the head out and make it a single head or leave it as a double, but we'll sort that one out when we actually do construction, but the head will just be modified to fit. The ADA I've talked about, we'll end up with the 6 spaces when we get done per the request. And there's, just to kind of back up, there's 5 projects in this construction process that we're going through. One is the transformer to the vessel shop, which is permitted and to be constructed soon. The second is the transformer change out for the office that we have now, plus this building that'll be done sometime in the next 90 days. And then there's a outside inspector's office. It's an old 1960s trailer that's lived its life. It was probably a bad guess when they drug it in there, but it's really a worse guess now. So we'll be demoing that trailer. We have plans into the city for a stick-built similar size structure to be put in for the outside office inspectors that come. I think right now, Rick said they got 2 of them down there right now in the building. So they need to provide them with a cubby hole to set their laptop and coffee cup. Another project is the shop office. It's an existing masonry structure on the east side of the big building. It's a shop office in the break room. That was remodeled 12 years ago. Also, we just did a kind of put a little paint on it, cleaned it up a little bit. This time, the building will be totally gutted. 10-foot addition will be put on the north with all the new plumbing in it, so that we can just totally improve the area that the employees from the shop have to take a break, make more offices so they can just work out better. So that's the second piece of the construction. The third piece of the construction is the project that you've got in front of you. It'll be the last phase that we'll do. And that's, we're hoping for a completion, a start sometime in early spring on this structure. We're working through the plans right now. So that's what Taylor Forge's plans are for the next year, to get all this done, be regrouped, cleaned up, and ready to run for several more years. All I can really say is that Taylor Forge is doing well. It's got a lot of orders on the books, and things are working out really well down there. They're getting ready to send. If you go down, is that vessel still across the street, Trent? The one on the railroad tracks?
I'm not sure if that shipped that or not.
They were working on it the last few days. They had 2 big slug catchers, which are those double stack things that they're proprietary to Taylor Forge. There were two of them loaded up on rail cars over on the west side on Mulberry Street. Those two items were headed down to the Gulf. They get on a ship and they end up in Qatar. So they send stuff all overseas, all over the place. They've got a really sophisticated system down there to construct those high pressure vessels. Just a great employer for the community.
Me.
I have a question. You mentioned earlier on this sewer line that runs underneath there,
Mhm.
it's not there's no easement for that?
No, that was originally lots and blocks.
Okay.
And,
So that was an alleyway.
it was an alley and it's been vacated and, it does, I believe it already has an the easement was part of the vacation.
Well, you can
I
say
believe, but
Yeah.
we gotta prove that, but I believe there was an easement that was part of the vacation when they vacated, the city vacated the alley.
My question is, if you build a building over that. And it's,
So, yeah, let me,
we've spoke about that and staff with Taylor Forge's understanding, there could be a breezeway of sorts. With the understanding that if there is disruption to that, and the breezeway needs to be taken apart, then that is.
yeah, because
That
the,
is-
go ahead, Brent.
If you look right here, the sewer line runs right here. This is the breezeway we're talking about. So what we decided was because the sewer line runs under the main facility as well, if we have issues with that, we're gonna have meter issues.
Yeah, the bigger problem is the building.
But this building is not actually over. The only portion of the building.
The pipeline is about 23 feet off the building, and our building will be 30 feet off the building. So it'll just be that
So the.
8-foot wide breezeway that goes through there that they'd have
I just
to.
wondered how you
Yeah.
worked it out to handle that.
This they put together, that'll be shown a little more clear.
I was just curious how
Yeah.
that was.
You guys see that?
Yeah, I understood all the comments.
Yeah, and there's some AT&T stuff that's getting relocated, there's utilities in that space south of the building, power or electrical utilities. AT&T, Trent's, fiber optic cable, that probably have proprietary over the top of your sewer question. But, we've got to maintain that green space between those two buildings to take care of.
Yeah,
all
and
that.
there's plenty of space between the
Yeah.
learning center and the existing building, and that's why it was designed that way, to make sure we could get equipment in on both sides. if
Yeah.
necessary.
Yep,
That explains it then. I was just curious
No.
how that was gonna
Good
be
question.
handled if something happened to that lot.
yeah, no, the line underneath the main building's a big enough problem,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that
because that's got a real floor in it.
answers my question.
Yeah, we had enough concerns with that when we had electrical issues a couple of years back, and we thought we were gonna have to tear out the floor.
Yeah.
We were able to fish the new lines in, so.
Any other questions for Alan? Thank you, Alan.
You bet.
Do I have any questions? On this observation?
Everything was pretty well answered, or
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I recommend the preliminary site plan for Taylor Ford's Learning Center be approved with the following conditions. Show utility information for the site, including but not limited to utility easements. Addition of landscaping plan, addition of lighting plan, and addition of parking plan to verify adequate ADA parking.
I'll second that motion.
Big Green,
Aye.
McLean,
Aye.
Upshaw,
I'll abstain because Taylor Ford is my employer.
Mauer. Yes. County.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Like
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the discussion of the 2018 International Building Codes.
Appendix Q.
Appendix Q, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
you're fine. Appendix Q relates to tiny homes. So recently, the city updated to the 2018 International Building Code Series, and it necessitated the revision of the current land development ordinance in multiple sections. The draft attached kind of reflects changes of research done by myself and city manager Randy Shannon with surrounding municipalities that have tiny home clusters in place. What we did was put together what was regulated by Appendix Q in the building code. And then we also have to look at some tables and sections in the LDO to kind of add to that to allow it. So moving on to the attachment, the land use table, what you'll see is it says existing single family cluster. So that is currently existing in the LDO. We need to add a tiny home cluster. So the land use would be under a conditional use permit in the estate district, the suburban district, and the thoroughfare access zoning district. In the NC neighborhood conservation district, there is another table we could look at changing. It did not include with this one. So we'll have to kind of work that for next meeting. And then all the ends is where it's not permitted. So suburban, the SC, which we don't have anymore. So we probably should take that out. Downtown zoning district and industrial zoning district is where it would not be allowed. So B is just to modify the limited and conditional uses to write in under the single family residential existing conditional uses. We need to add a letter D that says tiny home, single family cluster developments may be considered for a conditional use permit if the following standards are met. You guys want to do like we did previously with LDO changes and just line by line, I'll read them and you discuss them? Or do you want to go through it and read it over, and then if you have questions, how would you like to move forward?
We need to have a public hearing to approve this,
This is just a discussion to get some language together.
to
And-
have
and-
the public hearing. Okay, I would prefer to have time to look through this and digest this a little
Okay.
bit. Would it be possible to do that and bring it up at next meeting?
Sure. Yep, we can all
If
do
you
that.
don't mind doing that.
There are, if you don't mind, a couple of highlighted sections. I'll just kind of clarify why they're highlighted. Number 2, the tiny home development shall only be permitted with a minimum spacing of 1,000 feet between tiny home developments. That current language is in the LDO for other single family clusters. It just helps with density, like apartment complexes, keeping them kind of spaced from taking over one area. And then number 8, tiny homes on wheels must be anchored and have screening. If we want to look at that as an option, what kind of anchorage do we want that to say? And defining a tiny home. Dwellings must be between a total of 300 and 800 square feet and total floor area, not including lofts. we can look at that, or we can let the appendix Q kind of dictate, and we can use their definition of 400 square feet and below. And then the structural requirements, everything in here, just, I linked it all to appendix Q, so if you would like, you can go online to ICC Safe and just search for 2018 International Building Code appendix Q, or if you want, send me an email and I can just email you the link.
Okay.
That way you kind of read what those sections say.
What was the
I
link?
do apologize, I meant to print that all off for you guys.
Go to where?
ICC Safe,
CT say.
ICC, International Codes Council. ICC. But like I said, I can always send that email.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just send us all a link and then.
Yeah, that might be the. Yeah, I think that'd be best. Give us a month to go through this and look at it. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
I like that.
If I may, Jess, are there any of these someplace we could
Um,
go look at that's started, stopped? So,
I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind, if you entertain the question, the first thing that pops into my mind is the KC Veterans Project.
Yeah.
However, there are other tiny villages
yeah,
out there. A lot of this language came from the city of Lake Ozark, so, which makes sense. Having, smaller homes for them, but, we did want to do, you'll see in there, just make sure it's one cohesive, plot of one owner, so that was. Yeah. I will send that link out to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Community Economic Development Director Report.
We are slowing down with our permits. I mean, this kind of typical this time of year. Paola Crossings, which is where ACs and scooters will be. They're still working through the site development of that. I think there's really not a lot that we haven't discussed
Yeah.
recently, just working through some different changes in the LDO. I don't know.
Time of the year.
Yeah. We will probably have a December meeting. So that'll be, I think, the 20th. So if you guys have plans come up in the next couple weeks where you won't be here that Tuesday, just let me know. That way we make sure we have enough for quorum.
All right. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second here.
Green,
Aye.
McLean.
Aye.
Upshaw.
Aye.
Mauer. Aye. Calvin.
Aye.